Good afternoon, St. George.
Hello.
And this is Michael Harding.
And this is Christina Harding.
And we're here with On the Arts, that show that is dedicated to blowing the lid off of all of these wonderful little artistic secrets that we have here in southern Utah. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot.
Yeah, boy, do we ever.
I'll tell you, a lot is going on, not only here in St. George, but also up in Cedar City. In fact, we're going to have some guests on Thursday from Cedar City.
Yes, they will be doing, it's called Swan Day from Statera Arts. And we'll have two ladies that are involved in this. And what it is it's a group of women that get together to celebrate women in the arts. And it'll be at off the cuff. I guess people that like to do improv and do that go up that place in Cedar City. They're going to have art displays up, and women will be singing, and it's just a celebration of women in the arts, which I think is very important nowadays. So.
And I think that'll be wonderful to find out a lot about the organizers of this.
Yes.
We're going to have two people here. One is Caitlin Mills, who has actually been a guest on our show before.
Yes, with Women of Will. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she played Pericles in the title character in their production of Pericles. And also, who else do we have?
I believe Stavros.
Alexandra Stavros?
Alexandra Stavros, thank you. She'll be on also. Yeah, and they've helped organize this event. So.
Fantastic.
And it's a nationwide thing. I mean, women have been doing this all over the country, and we're going to learn more about it. I'm hoping that maybe in St. George we can start doing it on Swan Day.
Now, I'm only going off of rumors here, but I do believe that all over the country there are women and artists. So I think this is something that could be.
Yeah, really. Well, yes, and it's time that we educated men like you, and that women are involved in the arts and do a lot for the arts. Yes.
Can you feel the love tonight?
Stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have Elton John anytime soon. Maybe in a week or two.
Yeah, you kind of threw me off here because we had to jump on so fast and get everything set up. Usually we just sit here and shoot the breeze with our guests before the show starts, so we didn't get to really relax before we got on the air today. So I can't find my words.
Let me tell you what I was working on so fast there. If you are interested in watching us, so you can see what we look like with faces in front of the voices.
I did my hair today, so yeah, it's a great day.
So check out radio.
Check it out.
We always dress up for radio.
Check it out. Yeah.
You can check us out on Radio St. George on Facebook. That's Radio Space ST Space George on Facebook. And we are broadcasting live on that page right now as well. This will be archived, so you can check it out at any point.
Forever and ever.
Ever and ever. So our guest today, make sure you say very profound things.
Yes.
Profound.
Oh, he just did.
Very quietly, but profound. And you can also check us out on YouTube. We are broadcasting live, and you can just type in On the Arts with Michael and Christina Harding, and you'll get, I believe, almost every single one of our episodes.
Yes.
This is Season 3. We have interviewed well over 60 guests at this point.
Yeah.
Season 3, where we find our stride, and the audiences crave more.
Yes.
And you can check out what we look like. That is video. But we also hope that if you enjoy what you hear, that you let others know that at 4 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they can listen to On the Arts, a show that's dedicated to getting to know the people behind the arts.
And if there's somebody in our community that knows of an art event coming up, whether it is painting or singing or musical instruments or theater, we want to know about it. So if you want to contact us on our On the Arts page, all you have to do is message and we'll get right back to you. And we are full through the month of April. We do go semester by semester. So when the semester ends the end of April, we'll be off the air for a while. But we'll come back in the fall.
For Season 4.
For Season 4. And we would love to have you on the show and let our community know more about what you're doing in the arts.
We were actually, I can't find my words either.
Yeah, it's
we were
really tough
actually
today.
Thinking about a segment of the show. I don't think we'll do this, but we were going over what's happening that we could announce, and we found all sorts of things that we did not announce last show and that they've actually happened, and we thought we'll do a segment on the things you missed.
Yeah, that'll be coming up sometime. Yeah, so many wonderful events going on, especially at Dixie State University right now. Yeah.
We've got a lot going on, and the music department particularly, we've had many guests.
We love the music department. Yeah.
This is part of the sloppy segue into our guest who's with us here in the studio
you
today.
always say sloppy.
Sloppy.
I want to say smooth. Say smooth segue.
Smooth. This is the Delilah transition.
The Delilah as he takes a drink and okay.
Yes, I must be hydrated for this transition. But I'll tell you, this is my monologue portion where I do my personal connection. Well, here at Dixie State University, I haven't been involved with the music department really much at all. And I do enjoy having conversations with my musician friends because I do have a bit of a history in music. Of course, my brother, with his training and such, I grew up with it, training on the piano, training in composition and things of that sort. And how I rebelled against my classical music family is I took up the trumpet to be part of the marching band. This was my joy. Whenever my brother was practicing Rachmaninoff in the other room, I was in there. I wish I could say I were actually playing music. I was really just finding loud noise on this trumpet.
Yes.
And a strange thing happened. I actually developed a love for marching band. And I know quite often in high school that's not the popular thing. You know, that phrase band geek gets thrown around quite a bit. Well, I'm a proud band geek.
I love
I had
band
a great
geeks.
time.
Yeah,
me too.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you married one.
I married one. So.
And, but I even went so far as to become what's called the drum major because it wasn't enough for me to just be, you know, in the trumpet line. I had to be in front, wearing white, the different uniform. That's just because of my ego, which later propelled me into the world of acting. But that's a whole nother story.
Such a story, yes.
But anyhow, I do remember actually falling in love with the craft of marching band. And it wasn't just about playing loud, as it started out for me with the trumpet. But I started to understand that it wasn't just making pretty pictures on the field. It wasn't just rousing up the crowd at halftime at football games, but there was an actual art and craft to it. And that's something that we are going to be discussing with our guests a little bit, the possibilities of this sort of opportunity coming up. But one of the things I love to do is write field shows. And it's something that I haven't done in quite a while, and I get really excited about it. Learning not only how to graph out the pictures on the football field, but also being aware of things such as what is the instrumentation that you're trying to punch up at the time? Should you have your heavy brass pointed towards the goalposts on a major moment in the music? Or do you want to actually choreograph it so that they are pointed towards the goalpost and therefore the sound is moving away from the crowd, and then at that big dramatic musical swell have them just turn either slowly or sharply towards the crowd? To me, there's nothing more exhilarating. Absolutely nothing more exhilarating. And what this took me to was something called DCI, Drum Corps International. Now, this was a long roundabout way of bringing me to our guest.
It was smooth.
Thank you. I was actually marching, I think literally, down the Hall of Offices, and there's another former guest of ours, Rhonda Rhodes, and I was whistling Malagueña. And
you were marching down the hallway?
I was in one of those good moods, and there I go.
This happened in the faculty offices? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I would never do it in front of the students most of the time.
Most of the time.
But Rhonda actually came to her door, and she said, Malagueña, are you by chance a fan of the Madison Scouts? And I said, why, yes, I am. And I found a kindred spirit. And then what was glorious is it wasn't just a dialogue between two. Out came another presence from his office, Bryant Smith, Dr. Bryant Smith, who knew exactly what we were talking about and was actually just as excited by it. So it's a thrill, actually, to have you here in the studio today. Dr. Bryant Smith, welcome to On the Arts.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today. And a good intro. I like the intro here because I know you've got a musical history, and I like the fact that you've got so much passion about it. Music's an easy thing to get passionate about. I know that.
And boy, does he get passionate about it.
That's a good thing. That's a great thing. I want everyone on DSU's campus to be passionate about music. And it doesn't matter if it's marching or concert or choir or orchestra or whatever garage band is coming to play on campus. Let's do it. Let's have some great music playing. So,
well, that's right. I love sharing with people that I'm actually getting a free education myself here at Dixie State University. You do have the office right next to mine, and at 9 a.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, when I'm just gearing up for my first class, which is at 10 a.m., I'm listening to a class being taught in the office right next door, and I have to tell you, I have learned quite a few things.
That tells me that I'm speaking very loudly in a very small space.
But very dynamically.
Yeah.
I hope so. It's fun because it's all about band literature. It's about what kind of music is out there for my students who are hoping to become future directors of musical ensembles, for them to learn, what kind of great music was there, and not just music, that was written today or 50 years ago, but all the way back into Mozart and Beethoven, and there's wonderful wind music that is done for them as well. So great opportunities to learn. So
Gotcha. Well, and I've heard of big variety of music coming from your room. I want to talk about your past just a little bit.
Yeah, who are you?
This is the hard-hitting journalism.
I'm the weird guy.
Who the heck are you?
That's right.
Yes.
In looking over your biography, not only do you have quite an education, having both an undergrad and a master's from Brigham Young University and, was it University of Utah?
University of Utah, yeah.
And you also went to Northern Colorado. Am I correct in that?
Yep. I did my doctorate at the University of Northern Colorado.
So that was your education, and you've done adjunct work at both BYU and UVU, Utah Valley University. Yep. But the thing that stood out to me was that in 2009, you were given the honor of being Teacher of the Year. Was it for Spanish Fork High School?
Yeah, I was the director at Spanish Fork High School for 4 years. During that time, I taught jazz band, concert band, pep band, marching band, guitar, and AP Music Theory. That was my course load, and I loved it. I loved teaching high school. There's something about the energy of high school students that are really, really cool. And every time I'm around them, it's one of the best parts of my job now is that I get to go to every high school and be involved with all of these different students. And it's fun to walk into their rooms and to have them say, Dr. Smith, hey, and we have this great banter that goes on. But when I was a high school teacher, I had a wonderful year that year. I had great students, and they were very kind to me that year, and they said, yeah, well, you've done a great job. That was the year that our band went to state and did a great job at the state festival. It was the first time that band had been there in, 20 years, I think. So it was great to kind of rise back up to that for that institution. It was really fun. So great kids, though. That's what it's all about, is watching those kids be happy. And so when they told me about that award, it was fun because the two kids who came and told me about it were both my band students. And they came up, and I can remember Sharisa coming up to me and saying, we're going to give this to you. And she was kind of shy about it. And I'm like,
what?
Thank you, my baby. Thank you.
A hallmark moment.
So, yeah, it was really wonderful.
Yeah.
So
what brought you to Dixie State University?
I was teaching up in Washington State prior to this. I'd gotten a job up north. Great job, Columbia Basin College in the southeastern corner of Washington, on the dry side of the state, not the wet, green, lush part that everyone thinks of. But
that's the part I'm from. I love that.
Yeah, and it's a great part, but it's great on the east side too. I really enjoyed it back there. And I was teaching jazz almost exclusively there, several other smaller things as well, but mostly touring with a jazz band and running a jazz band, which I loved. But my passion is in conducting wind ensembles. I really love being in front of the ensemble, like you said for marching band. That's me in front of a concert ensemble. I have 2 degrees in conducting, getting up in front and just teaching the wonderful beauty of wind music. And so when I saw this job open, it was really funny. My wife showed me the post. I was doing a presentation about how to get a job for my college students that I was teaching at the time. And so I just went out there and looked to see what was open, and this came open. And my wife, Heather, she saw the job post. She turned to me and she said, you're going to get that job. And the next day she started cleaning the house. I hadn't submitted an application, I hadn't done anything. She just said, you're going to get that job. And I did. I went through the process, and I loved it down here. I loved the fact that I could be teaching concert band again, symphonic band again. I loved that I could be teaching conducting, that I could be teaching wind literature and teaching basics of music. Those are the things that I really want to do. And the fact that I could do it here, a little bit more than I could do up north, was really great. Big props to those people up in Washington. They were outstanding, and they were great to me. But this place called, and I answered. I said, I'm coming here.
And when did you start teaching at Dixie State University?
So this is my 3rd year here.
3rd, okay.
Yeah, so been here 3 years, and replaced Gary Caldwell, who was here for 37 years.
Yeah.
Outstanding man.
Maestro Caldwell.
Indeed,
Yes.
and such a sweet man too.
Yes.
I love Gary, and he's been so good to me. But yeah, when that came up, Gary said, he said, I went in to meet him for the first time, and I said, yeah, my wife thinks that I should go teach at Snow College someday. She says that's God's country. And Gary pulled out a score to a piece of music that he was playing called God's Country. and he handed it to me, and he said, "You tell your wife that God's country's in Dixie."
That's hilarious.
And there we were, and I said, "Okay," and that's when I knew, okay, this
is the place.
This is going to happen. So in we went.
Oh, fantastic.
You have this delightful cartoon on your door, actually, and it's a conductor who's just looking kind of stymied, I should say, at this note on his music stand, and it just says, "Wave the stick till the music stops, then turn and take a bow." That's
what I do, right? That's all it is.
Well, that's where I had the pleasure of sitting in on your conducting class one time to watch, and that is one thing that amazes me. Now, when I was a drum major, I learned how to keep time to beat, and I would wave my arms so that the entire football field could see what I was doing, and I would occasionally adjust the volume just a little bit because I could.
Sure.
But I was amazed at the level of craft that really goes into really complex music and conducting it. I have to ask you, what got you into that? Was it just watching somebody wave their arms in front of a group, or were you raised with music?
It's interesting. When I was in high school, I had the opportunity to conduct a piece of music during a concert. It was a choir piece that I had arranged. It was from the show Riverdance, if you remember that original show. They had that beautiful song.
Michael Flatley, he keeps turning down our requests.
He'll come eventually. I've seen the swag you're going to give out, and it's going to be great for it. So
he calls himself Lord of the Dance, but he's okay.
It's Lord of St. George Radio.
I don't think we could keep him still in here, though. He'd be dancing all over. So,
Right.
So I arranged the piece "Home in the Heartland" from that wonderful show, and I got the chance to conduct it, and I thought it was really fun, but I really didn't know what I was doing very well, and so I kind of dabbled in it a little bit, but I'd always known that I was going to be a music teacher. Since 7th grade, I said, I'm going to be a music teacher, and I've known it, and so I knew that was part of the job. But my opportunity to really fall in love with conducting came, like yours, with being the drum major at the University of Utah.
You were the drum major.
I was. My 5th year at the University of Utah, my final year there, I was the drum major there, and I went up for the audition for it and got the gig and just fell in love with being in front. Being in the middle is great, and you're right. There is a certain amount of this sort of presence that's required to be up there. But there's something magical about being able to point and just have something happen. And if something's not going right, it's a little bit of responsibility too, of course, but to be able to say, no, that's too much. Okay, time for more. Okay, your turn to go. And to just be the one who is orchestrating all of these little things is really, really fun. And I fell in love with it and had the chance to study with 7 remarkable directors, 5 of which were members of the American Bandmasters Association, which is like the select group of 100 in the country, remarkable conductors. But I just learned it's wonderful to just be in front, to be sharing a musical experience with 60 other people. In my case, that's how many we have in the band this year. And so the chance to do that is just wonderful.
Oh, there's 60 in our band here?
Is that our symphonic band?
That's our symphonic band.
Oh,
yep.
Wow.
I'm the weird one on campus. I'm the one who wants 100 kids in the class. And so I'm not done. I'm not done yet.
Person. Yeah.
We don't have room for your kind here.
No.
On the contrary, we will make room for this. I mean, when I came in, I think I had 25 who were on the rosters. It was 25 the first term. And each term since I've been here, we've grown. And I've got another 35 who've requested scholarships for the coming year.
Oh, wow.
So we're making progress in the right direction.
Yes.
It's really great to see.
Well, I have to ask you, that's our symphonic band. Are there any plans towards having a marching band? I mean, we certainly have moved divisions in our football team, and we have 2 sides to our stadium now.
and we want to appease both for sure. There's definitely a movement that is going on right now. We've had discussions with there is. I mean, there are discussions that are happening very regularly about this. I'm putting together some numbers right now regarding that, trying to figure out how much it would cost. I mean, that's the first issue with a marching band. I mean,
money,
we have to hit rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
If you want a marching band, it's going to cost thousands upon thousands of dollars.
And uniforms and instruments and coaches and everything.
You get just the uniforms on your own, which you have to change out every 10 years. For 100 uniforms, how much is that going to be? That's going to be literally $100,000 of uniforms for that. You've got instruments that are going to be brand new because you've got to find that instrumentation that fits that band. The next thing that has to happen too is you've got to have space. If you start going and buying, let's say, 10 sousaphones,
where do you put them?
I don't have a space for 10 sousaphones right now. So we're going to have to create that. That's right. That would be a big trunk. So, all of those considerations are in there. And then we've got to think about how it's going to be run. Who's going to be the actual director of that group? I have a full-time job. Running a job as a marching band director and an athletic band, pep band director is an enormous responsibility. Getting someone full-time for that would be something that would be absolutely crucial to making this happen for a Division I school that's growing so well. So do I see it? Yeah, it's definitely out there. It's in the water, and it's in conversation mode at this point is what I would say. That's
exciting.
Lots to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be there. And I told my students, if you want to do a marching band, your first step is to register for pep band, to make sure that there is a large cadre of people in pep band who are going to stay there, who are going to play for all the football games and the basketball games, and so that we can support our wonderful athletes
That's
here.
Fun.
And
that's a lot of fun.
It is. It's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
I've been in those situations where we support athletes, not just here at Dixie State, but at University of Utah, BYU, Northern Colorado. Its opportunities are out there for Division I schools.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, that's a debate that I would love to get your view on.
Sure.
A debate that I've had with my brother, I think, every single year for the last 3.5 decades. I kid you not. And again, this goes back to the rebellion I had of taking up the trumpet.
Yep.
My family was very classical, very classical. My grandfather wanted to be a classical concert pianist, but he ended up being an organist because he could make money off of that.
Sure.
My mother wanted to be a classical pianist. My brother actually is a classical pianist. Classical, all over the place. Mm-hmm. And then I get into marching band, and that really drove them crazy. We're playing Huey Lewis and the News on the field.
Yay!
And it's the power of love, baby. It's the power of love.
And there are actually two debates that I love to bring to every family gathering. One is whether or not the piano is truly a percussion instrument. That will get my brother going crazy. And the second is, are the participants in marching band / drum corps musicians or athletes? Is it a sport or is it an art? Maybe it's called a spart.
A spart. It's spart. That's Spartans for those who are out there. Exactly. These are both really good questions. For my 1010 students out there, they better include this on answers for their test. A keyboard instrument is a keyboard instrument. It has...
My brother would love you.
It has both. It has the strings on the inside, and it is hit with a hammer on the string. Thus, it's the combination of the string family and the percussion family. And as a result, you get a certain conglomeration of keyboard instruments that are known just as the keyboards. We look at pianos, we look at harpsichords, we look at clavichords. These are all instruments that are percussive in nature and string in nature, so they just get their own category.
Right.
They're just that way, and it's wonderful.
They're special.
That's
Those
right.
weird, indefinable instruments.
And beautiful all the way around.
Yeah.
So, and now the other one. Okay, so state the other one again. So,
and actually, we're coming up on a news break.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to titillate our listeners
Okay.
to actually have them be thinking about, is it a sport? Is it an art? And until we actually get back to learn not only more philosophical things about what is marching band and what is presentational music and sport, if you will. But I also do want to remind people of a theater event that's going to be happening the rest of this week. And that's a production we have called The Wake of Jamie Foster. That's a play that's happening here at the school, and it is tomorrow through Saturday nights at 7:30. Tickets are $10 or just $1 if you have a student ID or a faculty ID. We hope you'll come out and check it out.
We'll
but now
back.
We're going to go to news and
Little
weather.
break.
This is Lisa Cypers-Kamen, host of Harvesting Happiness, broadcasting consciously prepared brain food, inviting you to join me on this week's show to learn how to tap into your creative brain to reach your full potential with my guests, Dr. Mike Long, PhD, and Sam Bennett. To learn more, please visit harvestinghappinesstalkradio.com.
Harvesting Happiness, Sundays at 4 on Radio St. George 100.3. Some of the web stuff you see on RadioDixie913.com is brought to you by St. George Design, specializing in web design, custom graphic design, and print media. Give your business what it deserves, a great website with a great design. A proud sponsor of Radio Dixie 91.3, stgeorgedesign.com.
On March 25th through the 30th, the DSU Theater will be performing The Wake of Jamie Foster, a sad story that will explore who Jamie Foster was and who he met through his life. The performance will start at 7:30 in the Echoes Black Box Theater. General admission is $10 and $1 for DSU students.
10-4, what seems to be the announcement here?
All Dixie State students, DCU PD lobby is now open 24/7, so that access to a new lost and found Dropbox is available. So for all of you who have lost your crap, you can pick it up, like wallets, jewelry, cell phones, and computers. Just come on by to DCU PD and pick it up.
Dispatch is on its way.
You can listen to Radio St. George anywhere with the TuneIn app. Download the TuneIn app from iTunes or Google Play and add Radio St. George, and then enjoy Radio St. George anywhere. Radio St. George on the TuneIn app.
Our place on the internet, radiostgeorge.com.
Welcome back to Radio St. George 100.3 with On the Arts. And now your hosts, Michael and Christina Harding.
Hello.
Welcome
we are back.
And I have to say, if you've never checked us out on Facebook or YouTube, now would be the time.
Yeah,
Boy, we were rocking out there for a
That
second.
was groovy. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Our guest just used the word groovy.
Absolutely.
Groovy.
That's because jazz is all about groove.
Groove.
You got to have the
Yeah.
groove. If you're not in the groove, then get out.
So Glenn Webb is the cool cat, and Bryant Smith is the groovy.
All right.
He's the groovy cat.
Groovy cat. Groovy cat. Yeah.
I love it.
Groovy Cat Smith.
Gotta get all these nicknames going.
I love it.
Yeah.
And on the mic. Well, anyways, just welcome back. We have been talking to Dr. Bryant Smith
Yes.
about marching band particularly, and we've gotten into conducting and a few other things.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to leave that debate out there over whether marching band is a sport or an art, just to let people cogitate on that just a little bit. Let's find out a little bit more about you, Dr. Smith. Sure. You've mentioned jazz. What got you into that? Why jazz?
It's very funny. The fact of the matter is that I played jazz all through high school, and I loved playing jazz. It was wonderful. And I went to college at the University of Utah, and my saxophone instructor, Mark Ely, who I absolutely love, just a great mentor and friend, he trained me classically on saxophone, and I got really into classical saxophone with him. And I didn't take any jazz courses at the University of Utah. And then I went to BYU and I got a degree in conducting, and I didn't take any jazz courses at BYU. And then I went to Spanish Fork, and we had a small jazz band. I mean, it wasn't even a full jazz band. It was kind of a small group, and I enjoyed teaching it, but it didn't come as naturally to me, I think, as I wanted it to. But it was okay. It was like, all right, yeah, we had some fun. We did some good things, and I loved watching the kids grow and playing with them. And then I went to Northern Colorado, and I didn't take any jazz courses until the very end. And I was sitting in a meeting, and one of my advisors had all these advisors there, and one of them was the orchestra director, and he said, "You really need to take more literature classes on orchestral literature."
Oh, I like how you said that.
And well, I mean, that's how he said it. And he actually would have said it with a British accent because
would
he's from Great Britain, and just great guy. And he brought this up, and I just had this feeling. And I had the jazz director who was sitting right next to me, and I said, I just have this feeling like I should take a jazz class. And the jazz director just smiled. He just goes, this nice smile that goes with it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So I took one jazz class. And then I went through the process of trying to get a job, which getting job at the collegiate level is really hard to do. It is a very taxing thing. And the job that I ended up getting, I got offered 2 jobs, one in North Dakota and one in Washington. And the one in Washington was this jazz gig. And I just had this feeling like that's where I needed to go. So I went to Washington and I took this jazz gig. And I remember talking to a good friend, John Owen, and I said, John, I'm really worried that I don't know that much about jazz. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, but you know about music and you'll be able to do it because you know music and you've got music in you. And I kind of took that and said, okay, I can do this. And so I did. For 3 years, I ran this jazz band and I learned fast.
Fun.
And I had a great jazz band. They were not only a full complement of instruments, but they were good. And I mean, we were traveling all around the Northwest and playing at all these different places and playing tunes that were way beyond anything I had ever touched in my entire life. And I was so proud of those kids and so happy to be in front of them. And to this day now, when I think about jazz, I get excited. It was something that was a weakness for me, and it became a strength during those 3 years. And now I love it. And whenever I can, I just arranged a piece of music for Glenn and his jazz band here at Dixie State. They just performed that this past semester, which was great. And hopefully I've got some more. I've got another one in the pipeline right now. So
fun.
It's really fun for me. I love jazz music.
Yeah.
Well, that's something I've always loved about jazz musicians. And, you know, we make fun of saying, like, hey, you're the groovy cat.
Right.
You know,
so cool.
What's your name again? Bryant. I just had a moment where I had a senior moment.
I've officially become groovy cat in your mind.
Cat.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But then we also have, you know, cool cat Glenn. All of the jazz musicians I've known have been very laid back and fun.
They're so cool.
There was I played with a group called the St. Tom Cats.
Okay.
And this was actually in
cats.
Virginia. Yeah, cats are everywhere.
Yeah.
It was better than cats.
Where was this at?
This was actually in Virginia, where I went to high school, and that was in Gainesville, Virginia. And it was this St. Thomas Methodist Church was down the way. And I remember I would walk. We had a lake that was about a mile from our house, and it was my favorite thing to do in the evenings after supper during the summers, is I would walk down to the lake, and I would always pass this little, it was one of these country churches, you know, this little wooden church, St. Thomas Methodist. And there was one night I walked by and I heard this really cool stuff. And I found out that they had a little ensemble that they called themselves the St. Tom Cats. And I thought, how cool that they're playing here. So I went in and, you know, took my trumpet in one time, decided to, you know, jam with these guys. And it was one time, and I was not invited back.
Oh.
But I will say there were some really neat guys. There was a guy named Lee, and he was my first introduction to a jazz musician, because I walk in and I never heard a complete sentence out of Lee, but he would just sit there with a trumpet and he'd be like, yeah, we're going to play it. Yeah, here we go. And then he'd pick up his trumpet, and this glorious, the clouds would open and the angels of jazz would descend.
Yes.
Yep.
And then, you know, he'd put it down like, oh, that's how you do it. That's how jazz and what have you. And I will never forget Lee. He's my inspiration for jazz now.
Yep. And that's similar to the way a lot of these jazz musicians learned. You know, you listen, we had Wayne Berger on here on campus here last year. Phenomenal trumpet player, one of the best in the world, on campus here playing and giving a master class. And he said, you know, how'd you learn? Well, his teacher said, hey, why don't you play like this guy? And he said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, play like him. So he went home and he learned how to play like him. And then he'd come back and he said, that's pretty good. Well, if you play like that guy. And he'd send him to another guy. And they just learned. They'd listen to all these jazz musicians. And that's something that I think is important for young musicians, not just jazz musicians, musicians in general, is to listen to groups and to people who have more experience than them, because that's where they get the ideas. There's a weird culture that's out there that says, you know, you shouldn't listen to what other people are doing on the same piece of music that you're doing. So if I'm doing a John Philip Sousa march, I shouldn't listen to the President's Own Marine Band perform, because then my performance will sound like theirs. That's just not true in my mind. to me, I look at it and I say, you have to listen to them, but you also had better listen to this group and that group and the other group and get a whole bunch of ideas out there. And then when you've got all these ideas, then you've got more sort of arrows in the quiver that you can pull out and use so that when you're conducting the Sousa March, you say, I think I need to try this instead because it worked over here. And then you have more things to work with. So I think jazzers have a really good idea of how to learn music in many, many ways. And we can all learn from it. And remember, they talk too. It's not just like us. They got to do a bit more. It's got to be that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. I have a lot of admiration for jazz musicians, and we do have the Rebel Jazz Band.
We do.
Here, which is, I was surprised to find out, it's not actually the Dixie State Jazz Band, but Rebel Jazz Band is an entity of their own. We had the pleasure of hearing their Christmas concert, and it was amazing. One of Gary Caldwell was a member of it.
There.
Several people that I knew, Dr. Timothy Francis was a part of it, Dr. Rhonda Rhodes.
Rhonda was amazing.
Doctors, these medical, no, I'm not
I've,
medical, but
I've played with them a couple of times as well. I wasn't on that concert, but I've played with them a few times, and I love getting in there with those guys. They're great.
They're just cool people.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, you mentioned your wife and your family.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, are they into music like you, or are they off on their own worlds?
No, they're
football players.
They are all into a lot of different things, but music is a major part of our home. My oldest is playing saxophone, guitar, piano. He was in a marimba band up north, which was awesome. It was great. So he's done a lot of that. My second son is a kindred spirit to you, Michael. He's a tuba player and a trumpet player, and he wants to be in the room making noise, big noise.
You got to have a brassy personality.
He has it. He is a great brassy personality. He's awesome. And so I love watching my boys do that. My girls also play. They play violin and piano. And they're doing morning strings with the Canlins. I don't know if you've had the Canlins around on the show or anything, but
I don't think we have.
Ed and Kirsten Canlin are wonderful main staples in the community here with educational music here. They do a great job. So they play violin. And then my wife, for many years, has just said that, she's the one who listens. Heather's the one who has to go to the concerts. And it's been fun to watch her actually talk about music in different ways. And now she's my sounding board. She will say to me at the end of the concert, last concert, she came up to me, she said, "You were 10 minutes too long." And I was like, okay. And I knew I was 10 minutes over from what was the right length for that concert. She'll say things like, "Yeah, your tubas are really good in this," or "Yeah, I don't know about this instrument over here," or whatever. And so she's always talking about it. But now this is really fun. She has gotten a calling in church to teach all the kids music. So she's the primary chorister now. She's
the best calling in the world.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
And I have found that she is a music educator at heart. She absolutely has it. And it's beautiful. She'll say to me things and I'll just smile and she'll say, "What?" And I'll say, "It sounds like what I learned in my ed class at such and such a year." And sure enough, she's doing it, and she's doing it beautifully.
That's great.
So she is a musician too.
Oh,
I got to give a compliment to this lovely lady on my left here. One of the best primary choristers I have ever seen.
Excellent.
We talk so often on the show about how important kids are and the spark that they have. And what I love about that is you mentioned I kind of got this impression about your wife when she's being the chorister in front of these children. And also something that I absolutely adore about watching my wife in front of these kids is they sparkle more than the kids.
Yep. There is a sparkle that has to be there with those kids. There's an energy.
Got to be fun. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, there is this wonderful chance to teach.
Yeah.
And they respond. Those kids respond and they smile and they're cute. Oh my goodness. Just cute kids.
Yep.
Now we say this very idealistically. Now, I've had my share of experiences with kids as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes they're cute. Other times, I have to say, I'm watching that clock run down.
Look, before I got into my high school gig, when I was still in college, I had the chance to teach some middle school for long-term substitution.
Bless you.
And
Bless
I
you.
will, and that's the right answer. I mean, for me personally, I had to go home, take ibuprofen, and sit in a dark corner for a day after I was done. It was really hard for me. Were they great kids? Yeah, they were great kids. I loved being around them, but it was just the dynamic didn't work for me personally. On the other hand, I've watched colleagues who have taught high school for years who have said, I'm going to go take a middle school job and these younger kids, or an elementary school job, and I'm going to go teach these young kids fundamentals, and they're happy as can be because they have that ability to connect and that sparkle with those kids. And so there is a beauty with it, but we all have our place. You both have your places in various different activities that you're in. I have it in my place here at Dixie State with the bands. And I love that we all can find our place and we can just do our thing the right way. And if we support each other in it, then we all get to interact with each other on it, and it's a wonderful thing.
Now, if I had a son or a daughter that was interested in doing band at Dixie State University, how would I go about getting them involved? Do you teach privately, or what's the best?
I do teach privately. I teach saxophone lessons privately, so that is something that I do. Although most of the kids that connect with me, that I connect with, are through either me going out to high school band programs or people who are just looking at Dixie State and wanting to be involved in instrumental music. But I am the contact for that. So if somebody wants to join the band, they come to me. There's plenty of times when I invite students to just come and sit in with us and enjoy a rehearsal. Fun. Just come and play. Come and meet the other band members and feel what it feels like. And then I'm happy to answer questions, to take them on tours, to help them navigate that sometimes confusing transition of getting to college. It's a hard thing to do. And one of the best things about DSU is that every single person in that music department and in any department that I've really seen is there. There, if there's a struggle to get into something, come talk to me. I'll help you. I'll put you in touch with the right person that I can, or whatever. We're here to help. We're here to serve those kids.
Do they contact you through email?
Yep, they can contact me through email. So I'm on the website there, on the music department website. Just click on my name and come find me, and we'll open an email correspondence or a phone correspondence, and it works.
That's one thing I do love about Dixie State University is in the Eccles, the faculty offices. All the doors are open, and all of you are so warm and inviting for all these young, scared students that come in. They know they have a safe place to come in and talk and get their education going. So.
Sometimes I feel like we're the dark side of Diagon Alley in Harry Potter.
Well, it's kind of hiding over there, That's right. And yet, every kid who I see come in, if they find that they're safe, if they can feel safe, then they have a place to come when it is a tough time. There's plenty of kids who are in the hallways, man, you can tell, all right, I need to go see that one because there's something going on, and we have a talk, and everything works out, and they make it through, and they're wonderful.
That's great.
I'm going to tell you something I've been hearing lately, and this is when your class breaks up, or when you have, sometimes you have individual students who go in for, I guess it's ear training or something like that.
Yep.
And whenever they leave, recently, I keep hearing, "See you, Dad. See you later, Dad."
What?
And at first I thought, is Bryant's family visiting?
It's expanding at this point. No, it's actually, yes. So this core group that are calling me Dad. I recently took a group of students to Colorado for a conducting symposium where they spent 2 days learning intensively from the director of bands at The Ohio State University and the director of bands at the University of New Hampshire and people at Northern Colorado. And so we had a wonderful trip. There were 7 students who went with me, and they learned beautifully. It was so cool that I'm actually going to give a presentation this Friday at our Teaching and Learning Conference on taking your students outside of the classroom and the results of it.
You rebel, you.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful. So when we were there, my wife went with me on the trip, and they would call us Mom and Dad. We would be driving, like, Mom, I need Dad.
No.
Da, da, da. And so they've continued this trend, and it's just been this really funny thing. And they do, and I call them, bye, kids, And today, 3 of them approached me, and they said, we were thinking about getting an apartment, but we think we're going to move in with you instead, and we'll just pay you for rent.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, that's fine. Stay out of my fridge.
Yeah.
So we had a good joke about it. But that's why you hear the dad stuff going on there.
That's hilarious.
They're great kids.
Gotcha. Well, if people wanted to come and either watch you perform as a conductor or listen to your ensembles or even listen to you perform live on an instrument yourself, where would they go?
Lots of opportunities. Gosh, the music department has so much music going on right now, and it's great. The first place that they could go for stuff that's connected to me is this Saturday. We have our new music concert that's going on. All music that's been written within the last 50 years. And I have a piece that's premiering on it, which is just a short choral number. And Dr. Timothy Francis has one as well. We're just going to put a couple of choir pieces together
that
I wrote.
You composed.
Wow.
Yeah, I composed that one. It's called Please Let Me Rest, and it's a hymn style piece for five parts. So that's going on. So that's this Saturday. But if they wanted to go instrumental, our next concert for the symphony band is the 11th of April, which will be at Pineview High School. We're sharing the stage with Pineview High School. We'll do 3 numbers, they'll do 3 numbers, and then I think we're doing a medley in the middle combined, which will be a lot of fun. And so that's that one. And then a week later, the following Thursday, which I guess would be the 18th, is our band concert that we're doing. We're doing commissioned works, 2 pieces that are written specifically that we have commissioned and paid money to have written for us to play. And so we're in a consortium with several other universities and schools. One of them was written for John Miller, who was retired from American Fork High School as their band director, 3 years ago, I guess. Yeah. And we were on the commission for that. And then the other one,
very well known for his marching band.
Very well done.
Very well worked.
But not just that. If you listen to his jazz bands and his concert bands, wow. I mean, they get the marching image, but the music education that was happening there under him, and is continuing with Nate Siemens, by the way, he does a beautiful job with the band, is just phenomenal there. So that's one that we're doing. We're doing another one that was commissioned for former Davis High School director Steve Hendricks, who was there for 30 years and did a beautiful job there as well. So we're doing that one. I was hoping to do a 3rd commissioned work, but it hasn't arrived yet. And that one is one for wind ensemble and electronic sounds. And it's a big, 20-minute long work, huge work. Unfortunately, it hasn't arrived. I heard the premiere in Tempe, Arizona here about 3 weeks ago, and it was beautiful. Written by Stephen Bryant, just a really neat piece, but not arrived yet. So that one won't be on the concert. So we won't do that one quite yet. But then we'll get some other traditional stuff. John Philip Sousa's on there, so we'll get a little bit of that. We're going to have a great time.
And where do we go to get tickets to these events?
The ticket office is always available down at the Cox. You can always get tickets through there. If you come the night of the performance, come a few minutes early. We have a box office just off there in the Eccles. You can always get tickets there. $5 general admission, $1 for students with student IDs. Great deal to get in if you're a student. So go ahead and use that for a Dixie ID. I guess I should say that faculty member get that as well. So
I've got one of those.
You got one.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, I'm just curious. You mentioned that you composed something for 5 voices.
Yes.
And we've talked about jazz and conducting and band, wind ensembles and such. What drew you to compose something for voices?
I've sung for many, many years. When I was in high school, I was in choirs. I kind of did everything I could when I was in high school. When I was in college, I sang less formally with collegiate groups. I sang in some groups, but for the most part, I sang with an a cappella group, which maybe you've heard of. I don't know. It's called Moose Butter. And
I can't say that. It sounds like a Ben and
I've
Jerry's
had
ice
that.
cream.
Yeah,
flavor.
it sounds really yummy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I wasn't so sure when I thought about butter coming from a moose, but we were definitely. I was in that group for I guess 3 years. It was a comedy a cappella group, and we would do all sorts of stuff. Google moose butter Star Wars, and you'll hear the opening. You must use the Force, and it's a total parody on John Williams music using Star Wars quotes. So that type of stuff is what I did for my collegiate years. And then I've just sort of sung off and on with a lot of different groups and solos and stuff. My voice isn't, I think, as rich as it used to be. I don't sing nearly as much as I used to, but I love that sound. And so I've written several pieces for choir, really. I've done this one. I did one for voice, which I've just submitted for publication, which is called To Mary, the Handmaid of the Lord, which is taking the words of the angel Gabriel in the Annunciation and setting it for tenor voice, piano, and violin. So that one is on its way out right now. I've got a couple other choir pieces that I've written in the past that haven't seen the light of day, and I'm not sure if they will or not. But they're out there. They're on my computer waiting to be revived.
Wow!
So,
as I must say, we've actually run out of time.
Oh no!
Yet again. And I actually wanted to get into some of your research on the history of Mormon bands and things of that sort, but. Of course, we get to talk.
Back on. Yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right,
and we
we'll
actually have a
we
little
have a special
something.
gift today. It's our little swag. We're going to give you a Post-it that's on the Arts, Radio St. George, 103.FM. You're our first one to receive our official Post-it.
I feel
yes,
honored.
You
that
are
is
honored.
Going in my office in a place of honor.
I mean, who doesn't want a Post-it from us? So
isn't
it beautiful?
That's gorgeous.
Yes,
and that's
isn't
right.
it gorgeous?
If you'd like your own, please do send us a self-addressed stamped envelope, and we will send you your very own Post-it.
We're giving out
about the
Post-its
arts.
now. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, only the best.
Thank you so much for joining us and for
Bryant,
listening.
Thank you.
Now, we are going to be gone for the rest of today, but on Thursday, check us out at 4 p.m.
We'll be back.
For Swan Day. And until then, keep your focus on the arts.
You've been listening to On the Arts with Michael and Christina Harding. Search Facebook. George.com.